Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Okay, it is Friday, and all of our guests today are brought to you by our friends at the Whistler Golf Club.
Oh,
You know what the date is today?
opening day.
Opening day, May 10th at Whistler Golf Club. All the best to our friends up there,
Yeah, Big Al.
including Big Al, Chris Manson.
Yeah.
Have you got this photo by any chance, Ryan? Morning skate today for the Canucks, scheduled to start normally at 10:30, and I'd imagine that's when sometimes optional, usually optional,
Yeah.
when most of the players will be out. But we understand that someone is out early.
Oh, a little early. I don't see Ian Clark
Arturs
out there, though.
Seeloffs, all by himself
Usually,
at Rogers Arena before anybody else.
usually Ian Clark, the goalie coach, is out with early with the. I don't see Ian Clark out there, so we'll monitor this, Donnie, and see where this goes. But that's very interesting. Very interesting. He's out by himself.
Canucks and Oilers game 2 tonight. Let's bring in Thomas Drance from The Athletic. Thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Doing well, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
What do you read into the picture we just saw, Thomas?
I mean, I hope he's got his earbuds in like I do and is listening to some 80s power ballads, some All By Myself, Don't Want to Be. No, I mean, it is distinct. The thing to note about Canucks goalie routines, right, is Demko's routine is extremely set, and DeSmith has the same one in those games when he starts. So that includes the positioning drills that Clark usually works on with the goaltenders before the rest of the club joins the group at an optional skate or a full game day skate, as it were. Ever since Seelovs has come up, because he's been working with Marco Terenius down in Abbotsford, he's had a different game day routine, and the club has accommodated the fact that his routine looks different, right? When Seelovs starts, it actually does look materially different than it does when the other Canucks goaltenders, are slated to play that night. So now there's still usually some of that individual work with Clark, those specific positional stuff within the crease, which, we're not seeing. We do tend to read into which starter or which goaltender is first on the ice at a skate as telling. But yeah, I mean, it does look a little different based on that photo, and we'll see here. I'd expect Seelovs to start just based off of Rick Tockett's commentary that sort of he's earned it, right? He's 3-1 in this playoffs so far. He's played well, even when he has allowed goals against. He's looked calm. He's come up big when the chips are down, even in games like in Wednesday's game 1, where he wasn't necessarily sharp. He still was able to play and make some key saves down the stretch of that game. Look, we're in May. It's May 10th. It's 25 degrees out. People are in shorts. We're not looking at save percentage. We're not looking at goals against average. Wins. That's it. That's all we're evaluating anybody on at this point. Seelovs has gotten that job done, and I'd expect he's tasked with doing it again tonight. But I would say, and it's not so much the goals against in that game, so much as his footwork was almost hyperactive throughout that game. His usual calm demeanor was not on point the way it has been through much of this playoffs and many of his NHL games to this point. And his puck tracking, he struggled in that area as well. So, I won't be stunned if the Canucks look at it and think, hey, this is a young goaltender. We're asking too much of him. And he's been up to the task. He might need a reset at some point, opening the door for DeSmith to get back into the series. But I'd be surprised if that was tonight.
Yeah, I think most reporters will look at that picture. He's by himself. He's getting extra work. That means he's not starting. But you're saying that this is something that he does. He's a little bit different. Thomas, what about Leon Draisaitl? Would you expect to see him tonight? Any update from you, Doc Drance?
I don't have an update, but the fact that the Oilers didn't change their lines, at practice on Thursday, the fact that Sam Gagner, ex-Canuck, just happened to sort of be inserted into the Draisaitl spot, as opposed to a more significant switch with like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins taking line rushes at center. The fact that they just effectively put a placeholder in place at practice would suggest to me that he's, on the probable side of questionable as opposed to the doubtful side. But we'll see. I mean, regardless of whether Draisaitl plays or not, whether or not he's at 100% capacity is going to matter a ton. When he came back in that third period, there was a play along the wall where Pettersson sort of caught him with a reverse hit, and Draisaitl's reaction looked ginger. Pettersson also beat Draisaitl to the net to sort of get a deflection attempt in off of a Filip Hronek shot in the third period. That's another sort of tough sign, like a sign that maybe Draisaitl's mobility wasn't 100%, given how cleanly Pettersson won that battle for a chance at a chance, if not an outright scoring chance. If Draisaitl's limited in any way, and we've seen it, like we saw it 2 years ago in the playoffs, he was pretty severely hurt, and he still managed to play through it, and he still managed to be a game breaker for the Oilers, but he did it on McDavid's wing as opposed to driving his own line. And there's a ton of knock-on effects if that's something the Oilers have to consider here, given that, Draisaitl played so much against the Lindholm line. That matchup went in Vancouver's favor in game one. They rely on Draisaitl to effectively boost the CC Nurse pair, given how often Bouchard and Ekholm play with McDavid. If that's not an option for them, in the event that Draisaitl's not driving play or not his usual self, that significantly weakens kind of the middle portion of the Oilers lineup, especially if they have to elevate Draisaitl to the wing and sort of reconfigure their middle six entirely. That becomes a big advantage for Vancouver, given the way we saw Pettersson play in game one and what we saw the Lindholm line and Connor Garland in particular do in terms of being Vancouver's most threatening player. So this is a big storyline. I think it could have a huge impact on this series, especially as in some ways, if Draisaitl has to move to the wing or if he's out of the lineup, then one of Vancouver's sort of core advantages in this series, which is having Pettersson and Lindholm down lineup, becomes even sharper in game two and beyond.
Hey, Thomas, I love the fact the Canucks only took one penalty against the Oilers. That was at the 42nd mark, too many men. That was a big key. Don't take too many. The Kings were giving them 4 power plays a game. The Canucks did a great job there. But their power play, 0 for 3, their power play is only 12%, running in the playoffs at 2 for 16. You can't keep going deep into the playoffs without, at some point, your power play contributing.
Yeah, it's got to come through for them at some point, without question. And the worst part for me, Rick, wasn't even the fact that it didn't score. It was all the turnovers near the offensive blue line.
Second period, yep.
If that keeps happening, the Canucks are going to give up shorthanded chances against. Period. You cannot keep playing like that against this Oilers team. So whether you score or not, just building some momentum on the power play and avoiding those, high-risk giveaways high in the zone. To me, I know that's a bar on the floor, but let's at least jump over that bar, and then we'll worry about the conversion rate. There were signs of life, I thought. The Oilers are definitely not going to play narrow. They're not going to play they're not going to give JT Miller that downhill shot the way that Nashville did. We saw Pettersson, at least look for his one-timer with more decisiveness in game one than we saw in that Predators series. So I like that. I hope that bodes well for Vancouver over the balance of the series. And then, one penalty, that's good. They got away with one. Pius Suter threw the puck out of the offensive zone in the third period. I thought that should have been called live. And of course, if you were watching the game, you heard an Oilers player come near a mic and yell at the ref that it was a penalty in their opinion, and they were right. And then of course, we've got Eric Furlat and Kelly Sutherland refereeing the game tonight. Only sort of 3 power play opportunities for Vancouver, 1 for Edmonton in game one. Wouldn't be a shocker if there was more whistles tonight, more special teams play. And of course, we know special teams play is an advantage for Edmonton. Staying out of the box matters. Converting on the power play matters, and definitely avoiding those high in the zone turnovers, which plagued them in game one, I think is going to be essential for the Canucks here.
Can you elaborate on this Sutherland thing? We were talking about it this morning. Everyone thinks the Canucks are screwed because history. But that okay, we're going to talk about some of the reffing you did 14 years ago, and it's going to come back and haunt the Canucks tonight somehow, or they're 0-7-1 in their last 8 games against Sutherland. I mean,
Against Sutherland.
or well, the game season, 0-7-1.
That's how some people feel, though.
Yeah, but that okay. So are we reading too much into this, Thomas? Like, is that going to be a factor tonight?
I don't know. I mean, Kelly Sutherland, of course, hailing from Richmond, British
Yes.
Columbia, so
Yes.
he's a local, consistently one of the top-rated NHL referees. However, he was on the ice for the Brad Marchand, Speedbags, Daniel Sedin play in the 2011 Stanley Cup Final. Obviously, that's a sore spot for locals. And then he was the referee in Game 4 of the Sharks sweep of the Canucks in 2013, where I think it was now you'll have to fact check me on this, but I'm pretty sure Daniel Sedin was called for boarding in overtime, and then after the game was assessed an additional unsportsmanlike conduct penalty.
10-minute,
on his way off of the ice following the sweep. I mean, it takes a lot to get a Sedin to be unsportsmanlike. So that's certainly something that I tend not to give an official the benefit of the doubt on. That said, that is ancient history to some extent, anyway. And I'll tell you this: like, we were doing our anonymous player poll, right? And one of the questions we ask players is like, "Who's your favorite referee? Who's the best referee in the league?" And Kelly Sutherland had some supporters among Canucks players. Canucks players who I then would be like, "Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't think Canucks fans would agree with you." I think among the group currently, this current Canucks team anyway, there does seem to be, with not the same awareness of the history of the water under the bridge there does seem to be some healthy respect for the way Sutherland calls games. We'll see how it plays out tonight.
Thomas, thanks so much. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy working the game tonight.
Oh, I will. Should be fun. Let's get another good game going. Would be great.
Yeah, the entertainment level has been outstanding all around the league. Thanks for this, my friend.
Cheers, boys.